The race to be the next Spartanburg County Sheriff is on, and voters will have 9 candidates on their ballots. They include current Deputy Robert Cheeks, former Deputy Andy Clark, current Spartanburg County Coroner Rusty Clevenger, and the list continues. Current Town Councilman in Lyman, Adam Crisp, former Deputy and candidate for Sheriff Nick Duncan, and current Deputy Randy Hollifield. And the rest of the candidates include Spartanburg Police Officer Joseph Pilato, retired State Trooper Bill Ryan, and retired law enforcement officer at the local and federal levels, Rick Stevens. And you decide soon. Early voting begins July 21st, with Election Day for the primary set for August 5th. And if a runoff race is needed, which is expected with 9 candidates, that election will be held on August 19th. This summer, Spartanburg County, you decide. And one of those candidates running for Spartanburg County Sheriff is Joseph Pilato. So, Mr. Pilato, thank you so much for taking some time with us. I'd like to start off these conversations the exact same way with each candidate. Why run for Spartanburg County Sheriff?
This is a calling. If you would have asked me a month ago if I was going to be in this race, I would have told you absolutely not. But it took a pricking on my heart with a lot that was going on, especially with the homeless community I've been working with, for God to get my attention and to realize this is why God brought us up here 14 years ago, against all questions, trying to figure out why I took a huge pay cut to come to Spartanburg County with my family when we had no family or friends here. This is a calling to change this ship around. God knew a long time ago this is why we needed me here.
You mentioned you've been here for 14 years, serving the city of Spartanburg. You've got about 30 years in law enforcement, both in Florida and Texas before coming here to South Carolina. What kind of experience does that give you to be able to run for sheriff?
Well, you got to remember, when we go through a lot of the training, especially, I'm a hands-on person. I like to be in the trenches with people. So during the years at Texas, we had a lot of crime, dealing with juvenile crime, auto thefts, gangs. We were dealing with a lot of drug interdiction and things along that line. So those were the early years where Governor Bush actually got his platform to get put into office at that period of time. That training, that was my base there, and learning domestic violence and family violence with mental health, transitioned us to Florida, where my folks are from. So from Sarasota County, I learned a lot of more in-depth training with DUIs, again, with drugs, community policing, and dealing a lot with mentally ill there, Alzheimer's and things along that line. So the CIT trainings, the things about families, dealing with people internationally from all over the world, those were the kind of things that bringing it up here, people weren't used to, especially from the mental health side. And now that I got re-equipped again with domestic violence like never before here in South Carolina, then again with mental illness, with homeless, drug addictions, alcoholism, just trying to see from everyone else who really doesn't like to deal with these issues. I've been in the last 4.5 years in the trenches, seeing people as people, where we drive by them all day long, hearing their trauma, hearing their stories, and getting to know people, not just in $2 million houses, but right down to those who do not have houses, and how important it is to change for community. Because that's what makes a city safe, is community. And those values I'm bringing here, along with all my training and experience, to want to change this back to a county where everybody wants to know why everybody's moving here. Not for the real estate values, but for the interpersonal relationships that people can get, especially building them from law enforcement and then transitioning it into everyday life for everyone else.
You mentioned everybody moving here. You moved here 14 years ago. You were born in New York, lived in Texas and Florida. You said yourself you're an outsider. So for anyone who may be watching this saying, these other candidates, your opponents, born and raised in Spartanburg County, why do you want to be the top law enforcement officer of Spartanburg County when originally not from here?
When you understand the outside perspective, too many people through the years have said, Palato, we don't need those values here. Go back to Florida if you want to bring those values. When you see there's so much more of a bigger world out there. We're not in the horse and buggy days anymore, so we don't need to deal with the old time. I'm appreciative of traditions. I'm appreciative of culture, but there's so much more out there to bring here for everybody to share in, to really learn family values that are just outside of our reach here. When people talk about Spartanburg County, they're thinking of old traditions, which includes a lot of hate, which includes a lot of things that have been here for several hundred years where there have been wrongs. When you bring that outsider's perspective, it's like a summer day diving into a cool pool. You get the refreshing taste to see people's hearts instead of people's just old traditions and ways to break those cycles that are here. In my opinion, it's kind of like domestic violence. If you don't break the cycle, you're going to be generationally cursed with those values that keep coming back ugly over and over and over. This is a fresh perspective from law enforcement, especially from my modern ways, coming back from the agencies that have had to fight it 30, 40, 50 years ago. Those cities and states had to go through the same thing. We're just slow in evolving and transitioning. This is where my fresh perspective can come in because I have learned those things already, and I have been pushing uphill these battles in the background with the courthouses, dealing with the solicitor's office, the hospitals, with the mental illness. When you understand what needs to be done from that outsider's perspective, you're pushing hard because it's people that you want to make a difference with, not politics.
So you're saying you being an outsider is a strength, not a weakness?
Oh, most certainly. It's a fresh perspective that when the citizens I have interacted with are going, where are you from? Because they see it's different from what they've been hearing for a long time, both from officers and just a perspective of someone who cares.
What's the number one thing then you want to change? You said break those old ways, those old-timey traditions. One of those things you said, that fresh perspective. What's that number one thing, the top thing you think that you can change if elected sheriff?
Number one, family values and God. We've kicked God out of so much in this state. You know, we got it on a bill, we got churches in every corner, but when you see how miserable people are, you know God is nowhere near.
Because the former Sheriff Chuck Wright, that was kind of one of his platforms where he constantly prayed and made sure that he would say that he kept God first. So how can you make sure that people believe you when you say that?
Mine is by the fruit of what you do. People who know me know it's not a talk. I've been doing this as a chaplain for 35 years in the jails and prisons, and even up to COVID down with Livesey. Rehabilitation with people and making those relationships, giving them hope is what we do. I'm not around just to carry a Bible and talk to you about it. I don't debate the Bible. You got to live by faith. COVID showed that when everybody was trying to get the shots and everything else, and I turned around and I said, listen, I got Psalms 91. God has always watched over me and my family. This fresh perspective is not talk, it's a walk. And the many times that I should have already been dead and not here even speaking with you, that's a living testimony that God's been watching over me and my family. That's faith. It's not just communication.
What else do you want to see changed?
The politics here, the people that are just so wanting to not look at everybody in a family-oriented way. We got so many broken families. We've got so many traditions that are, although good, they're missing out on community. You know, when you see people, they're always broken into little cultural differences. But man, when you get a chance to talk with people and share your heart, especially the love of God for everybody else, that is more refreshing than having dinner after dinner around the community when people don't take the time to see who's sitting next to them and share, hey, what's going on in your life? Because I've been there too many times where just that word has changed people from committing suicide, just that friendly word. And I can tell you stories about that. About 4 years ago, I walked into a QT and I just felt God saying, hey, talk to this young lady over here by the fountain. 4 years ago, she was getting ready to commit suicide, or around 3 to 4 years ago. And that was going to be her last day. She had been living out of a car. She was destitute at that point. She felt like she had no other value. But what little conversation that I could remember changed her life immensely. That day, about a year, maybe 2 at most ago, she found me at the same QT and said, Officer Palato, come on over here. And she told me what that one conversation did to her life, changed her from ready to commit suicide. She's now a sous chef. She ended up going back to college because for whatever I said to her that day changed her perspective. It was just one simple interaction with somebody that day that made the world a difference.
Thankful she's still with us. Now, you mentioned community. One other key word in this entire race is transparency. How can you bring transparency back to the Sheriff's Office of Spartanburg County?
Everything needs to be reevaluated, and transparency right up front. It doesn't matter what you do, you have to have a checks and balance system so that people see and hear the same thing. Right now, there's so much being hidden. We don't know where all the finances has been going. We don't know who's spending it on what. Those types of things, an open door policy, interacting with your community to find out what their needs are and let them be able to see what you're doing is huge. Right now, people don't trust government, and they most certainly don't trust anybody in positions of governmental power just because they always say one thing and then you can never reach them on the background. I'm going to try to bring in a clear vision right from the top that you will be able to see our finances, what's going on, and with the exception of maybe some investigations that are needing to finish their investigative form for officer safety, give everybody a chance to see what transparency should look like and should have always looked like.
Lastly here, real quick, 15-second answer. What is your promise to the voters of Spartanburg County?
My promise to you is to always give you my best. I'm passionate about everything we do. I'm going to bring God to the forefront, and I'm going to make sure your needs are met uncompromisingly.
Joseph Palato, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.